I'm Lauren Hoffman. My company is Inner Beauty Inc. And I like to say I help people feel better about themselves or help them with insecurities through the art of cosmetic tattooing. So that could be things like brows, lips, eyeliner, like what we think about with permanent makeup. But there's so many other things too. There's scalp micropigmentation for like thinning hair. There's areola tattooing for like breast cancer survivors, and scar camouflage for like scars where someone maybe doesn't want like a full big tattoo, but just to camouflage it like the rest of their skin.
Yeah, wow, that is some incredible work. Very intricate stuff, and very some things are quite important. I feel like maybe all of it is important because people, maybe their eyebrows mean a lot to them, or like people who are breast cancer survivors, like that is like such a big deal. Like that you almost feel like your womanhood is kind of like being stripped away from you.
So true, so true.
So I feel like the type of services they provide are like quite powerful, and it's crazy to think that it's a tattoo. Talk to me about how you got started in your industry and what led you down this path, and was tattooing something that you ever thought you're like, you know what, I want to tattoo some eyebrows?
Definitely not. No. I've always had, from an early age, like a passion for makeup. I liked how it made me feel. Like if I, did my makeup for school or whatever, I'd be like, oh, okay, like I feel better about myself. So I've always just had a passion for makeup. And so I became a makeup artist, part-time as an adult, and then just realized like you can help people feel instantly better about themselves. So it was something I was pretty passionate about. And then I was actually down like a rabbit hole on the internet one day, and I saw I just search and keep going, but I found this artist that was a cosmetic tattoo artist, and I saw the work she was doing with brows, and I was like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. It looks so natural. Yeah. And as a makeup artist, I knew like everyone struggles with their brows. So it was something I was instantly like interested in. I took training, within the same month of finding that, and so got my start doing brows, which I'm sure everyone's heard of microblading. Yes. And that's kind of how they get their start. But there's this whole world of cosmetic tattooing that kind of grows from there. So
oh my gosh, what a cool rabbit hole, one that leads you into your career path, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes I get into some rabbit holes, I'm just like, oh, I was watching a music video and now I'm like here. Okay.
Right, so random.
Yeah. I love it. I would like to ask you what it was like just starting off being an entrepreneur and making your own business. Like, what were the steps that you took in order to get started? I'd like to hear that story.
Yeah, I feel very blessed. I had, steps along the way where people would help me. So initially when I was a makeup artist and hadn't started this yet, I had posted on, I think it was Facebook, just, amongst my friends, like, oh, I'm going to learn microblading and, get into this field. And I knew a couple who owned a salon, and they saw that and they were like, hey, Lauren, like, we totally have faith that you'll do great in this. Like, let us help you. So it was really amazing because I feel like they, were willing to take a risk when they knew I was a brand new artist. So that was great because I didn't have to really try to find a place to start. These people reached out to me. So I started there. And then from there, I had to move for other reasons. So I actually like restarted my business like 2 or 3 times. Okay. But you just kind of, you take your passion and you take, I think, the desperation to just like make ends meet, right? Yep. So, you just push harder and harder and market yourself. I learned a lot about marketing through just going to different groups and hearing what other business leaders or business, owners had to say. And I just kind of took that and said, how can I apply this to my business? I always try to build relationships because anytime we have a business, right, like so many people are salesy and like trying to push like, this is what I have to sell. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think any of us really like that. So if you build these relationships and people get to know you and you say, hey, this is what I think could help you, it goes so much further because they believe in you as a person. Absolutely. So I try to cultivate that in all the relationships I make.
No, that's great. That is a great point that you made there. Like, people want to feel like you're relatable, you can trust them, you can talk to them. Just like you said, build that relationship as opposed to like, here, buy this for me. You're like, here, get that.
Yeah.
Like, so that totally resonates, and exactly. I get that.
For sure.
I would like to ask you, what have been some of the challenges for you when you started your business, or maybe do you have employees currently?
I will have I have one. I will have two very soon.
Oh,
So, oh,
congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, talk to me about that. I guess for entrepreneurs, employees, like when you're selecting and doing the hiring process and retention, talk to me what your journey's been like in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a business owner, it's scary, right? Because especially if you're solo entrepreneur, right? It's just you. You have to be able to trust somebody that maybe you don't even know, probably don't know, that they're gonna care as much about the client or customer as you do. So it is very hard. I had to definitely like reel my emotions back and let logic, take
Yes.
over many times because emotionally I'm like, I'm too scared to do this. I don't know who to trust. But I was very fortunate in my corporate world before I started this business. I had some experience in HR, so it was helpful because I could at least know like, okay, what should I look for in a resume? How does the whole hiring process work? That sort of thing. But I almost feel like that was also like a double-edged sword because I worked in the liability side of being an employer, so I saw all the bad stuff that can happen.
Stuff.
Yes,
I get your feelings now.
So even more so, it was hard. But at the end of the day, I feel very fortunate. I found an amazing receptionist, Maddie. We love her. And
Shout
now,
out, Maddie.
yes, Maddie. And then now we have another artist, a part-time artist that's going to come on board as well. So, and we again just kind of cultivated this friendship and we did the same thing and it just worked out for both of us. So both times it's just been almost like a gut feeling, but
no, I love that. I think that's great. No. And sometimes it is hard out there. So like I guess on the employee side and the employer's side and trying to find that good match and making sure it's a good team and we work together and just make it a great environment for everybody and ourselves. So,
yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
And then I would like to ask you about marketing. What are you doing to get your name out there? Are you going to B&Is? Are you putting content online? Tell me about what's working for you.
Yeah, each time that I've moved my business, like I mentioned before, I would always try to find a local networking group, not really B&I per se, but just like a locally, ran group. And each city I've been in, I was able to find something and just going to meet other businesses or business owners, getting my name out there, I suppose. But yeah, and like we were saying before, once they get to know you as a person and a friend's like, hey, do you know someone who does brows? They're like, oh yeah, I know this lady, Lauren, So definitely started that. Social media, of course, is so powerful. So definitely utilize that. But as I'm sure you all here at Alamon know, it's, word of mouth too. Your happy clients are going to be your biggest cheerleaders.
That's right.
So I definitely make sure that all my clients are as happy as possible.
I love that. What have been some of the most touching stories from the work that you do for your clients? Like maybe they had an accident with their eyebrow or something got messed up and you came and like corrected it, or maybe they were a breast cancer survivor. And I commend people who are able to like go out there and tell their story and like do that, because I'm sure it's not an easy thing. It's like such a personal thing. So talk to me how you build those connections, have those connections, and what have been some of the most inspiring things that you've been able to help people with?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. It's also super emotional. Like it's already tugging at my heart a little bit. No, but in such like the best way possible, because I feel so fortunate that I get to help, so many people. And when I was kind of explaining what I do as a business, and I said I help people's insecurities, that's truly what it comes down to. I think even if it was like a breast cancer survivor, right? So many of these women or men, but the vast majority being female, like they, like you mentioned, they almost lose part of their femininity and they feel abnormal, and so they come to me in a very vulnerable state. They've already been through diagnosis, treatment, reconstructive surgery. So they've already been through the ringer, right?
Yep.
And they're on this side of it. So it's almost like, battling this whole thing. And then I get to put like the icing on the cake, so to speak. But it's so healing. Like these women, we're in tears together. They look in the mirror for the first time. They feel whole again. So it's such a amazing thing that I feel very lucky that I get to be part of, because we've all known someone who's maybe sick and it's like, oh, I wish I could help, but what can I do? So I genuinely feel like, wow, I get to actually do something so beneficial. So it really is like life-changing for them, but life-changing for me too. Another huge thing is I do some, scar camouflage work. So self-harm scars are a huge part of that. And, there's a lot of embarrassment or shame because a lot of these scars, right, like you can't hide them. So if like they lift their sleeve, people are curious. We're human, right? So they ask them, but they get that all the time unless they're hiding. So they live in this like state of shame. So for them to feel comfortable enough to like come to me and say, Lauren, here are my scars. Can you help me? So yeah, like I said, super emotional because I just feel so much gratitude that like in people's most vulnerable states, they're willing to trust me. And I'm a total stranger to them, but I try to put out in all the content that I do that like I'm an approachable, like friendly person. I'm always going to try to make you feel comfortable. And so that to me, I think is what goes a long way. These people feel safe around me and I love them. So thankful for that.
Oh my gosh, no, that is incredible. And the fact, like, it's like a back and forth thing here because hearing their stories and their journey that they've been through is so inspiring and brave, and like the courage like that they had to come to you to help them. Like, oh my gosh, you've been like entrusted to like help them get their confidence back. So that's no small little feature there. That's
for
huge,
sure,
right?
For sure.
Who would have ever thought that tattoos would create something
right.
so powerful for people, right? Back then I feel like it's like, tattoo, what the heck, don't get a tattoo. This is that.
It's so true. It's so true.
Which leads me into misconceptions. Have you run into any misconceptions in your industry, either if it's with clients, social media, industry? Talk to me about any misconceptions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in any industry, right, we can all call ourselves whatever our profession is, but there's always going to be varying levels of skill. So in my industry, unfortunately, there's a lot of bad cases, or let's talk about brows, right? Because brows are so popular. We've all seen people that maybe like their brows are overly done or too dark for them, things like that. So cosmetic tattooing kind of gets a bad rap because it's like we all notice the bad ones, but we don't necessarily notice the good ones. We just think, oh, they have really pretty brows. Right. So it's a lot of education and trying to, educate prospective clients that no, that's a misconception. Like it can be done really well. It's just like when you choose a hairstylist, right? Yep. There's tons of hairstylists out there, but they all do different work. They can like butcher your hair or they can make it look like $1 million. Yes. So same thing with what we do. It really comes down to like skill levels. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to your services, can you go into detail about all the services that you're able to provide? I know it's like eyebrows and maybe lips. What else?
Yeah, so the permanent makeup, category, that's pretty much like the brows, lips, eyeliner. I hesitate to call it permanent makeup because, again, I really strive for like really natural looking results, which is what most people are after. So brows are a huge part of that because if you're like me, we went through the overplucking stage and, a lot of us, our brows didn't grow back. So there's brows. I really hone in on natural looking strokes, which really look like hair. So that's what gives me my signature look, and that's what clients are so happy with. So that's brows. With eyeliner, obviously it's permanent eyeliner. It's really helpful for people maybe who are like losing their vision, or maybe they don't have as sharp of eyesight. As we get older, that's pretty common. So it really helps because they don't have to struggle with putting makeup on every day. Some people have allergies to makeup, so doing a tattoo instead is more, hypoallergenic for their allergies. For lips, a lot of people, they lose the pigmentation that we have naturally, or they're just not born with much. So their lips almost like disappear into the rest of their skin. And so they feel really self-conscious about that. They feel like, oh no, I need to put makeup on every day because otherwise I, in their words, look like a dead person or something like that, So those are the obvious like permanent makeup category. But like we were talking about the areola tattooing, that could look like different things. It could be for, maybe someone just lost areola to injury, or they might have had like top surgery, for example, or, breast cancer. Maybe it's one side and not the other, or both sides. So there's a lot of different approaches. Sometimes we have to just color match and, create one that matches the other side. Sometimes it's both. for scalp micropigmentation. That's a really big one. So
What is that one?
it's actually where we tattoo little tiny, tiny dots that mimic hair follicles into the scalp.
Okay.
So it's really helpful for like women who have thinning hair, or men too.
Yeah.
There's different, approaches in how we do that to give a natural look. But for example, I have a really great friend and she experienced some hair thinning recently. So we did that service for her, and I mean, she feels like a new person because you don't see this contrast between the thin hair and the scalp. So it just kind of makes it blend together.
Yeah.
So it makes it look more dense. So that's a wonderful service that's picking up more steam, and I love doing that for people. And then the scar camouflage. So that's where, like I was saying before, if it's like self-harm scar, it could be surgical scars or injury scars, just anything where it's lighter than the rest of the skin.
Yeah.
But it's maybe more obvious than they want it to be, but they don't necessarily want to get a regular body tattoo to cover it. So I take skin tone pigments and just tattoo those in so it camouflages the look of the scar. We don't always get perfect, but we get as much improvement as possible, so they just feel more comfortable with that.
That is so incredible. Technology has truly like advanced us like
so much.
So many options. It's so cool.
So much, and I'm just grateful that there's artists that are willing to like share what they've learned so that other artists can offer that too.
Right.
So
the more you share with your community, the more people can get access to it and grow, and just it's a community, right? Help each other out.
Yes.
I love that. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years with yourself and with your business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a really hands-on person. I never want to stop doing the artistry portion. So even though, it is my own micro business, I foresee myself being in it as long as possible. It can be one of those professions that's a little harder on your body because, you're leaning over, your ergonomics aren't always the best. So your body is kind of getting sore too. But as long as I can, do it well for my clients, I would love to do it as long as possible.
Love it.
Yeah.
And what do you like to do outside of work? What do you like to do to reset your mind and just take time for yourself and relax?
Yeah. So like we were talking about earlier, I'm a mom. So I have my two wonderful kids, of course, and my husband. So really, like, if I'm not working, it's home life because they're young and takes up most of my time. But I feel very fortunate. I try to take at least like one day in the middle of the week, one to give my body a break from what we were talking about, the soreness, but also I try to just meet up with girlfriends and, have that like good conversation just to connect with really good friends, and that's really what fills my soul. So I try to do that, just having connection with other people. It might be like networking or things like this. So I just try to pour into myself as well as much as I can.
I'm glad you're taking care of yourself and doing things you love outside of work. I know you love your job, but you gotta have other things too to fill your cup.
Yes.
It's a cup and you just gotta keep filling it with all kinds of
Absolutely.
great things. And I had a question and now it's just like slipped my mind. Sorry, I'm thinking.
No, you're good.
Do you guys hold any events, I guess, where people can come and like see you guys, or you can spread the word about what you do, because maybe some people aren't aware of this as an option?
Honestly, we haven't really had any events. With networking type groups, sometimes they'll have, events where like you set up a table. So I've done those sorts of things.
Okay.
But I think just with the power of social media, it's just
right.
way more efficient, cheaper, faster.
Yes, you're so right.
So I really should put out more educational content for that reason. But, in the midst of running the business, the social media part kind of takes a back burner, but
girl, you're good.
but that's really where I try to reach people. So
love it.
Yeah.
And has social media changed the game for you as far as when clients request stuff versus maybe when there wasn't social media? Like, you see so many like altering trends and they're like, whoa, you saw that, you want that, like that's actually not how you're supposed to do that.
Yes, it's that's definitely a hot topic in the industry. So anything that has to do with makeup, right? Like there's filters, there's, a ton of makeup, on social media, right? But what I believe we as cosmetic tattoo artists need to do is show the reality of what it looks like. So I really try not to edit my photos. If I edit anything, it's, maybe wrinkles if the client isn't happy with their wrinkles, or, a blemish on their skin, that sort of thing. Yeah. But like the work itself, some people will put, makeup right over or next to a fresh tattoo. And I'm like, that's so unhygienic, but it's for the gram,
Yeah,
so it's like, no, please don't do that. Or they just heavily edit their photos. And so it just gives this false ideal of like perfection, which, us as a whole society, right? We can all relate to that. But especially when I'm trying to show people like, this is what we could do for your brows, but we're all human. It's not going to be perfect. If we get it to close as perfect as possible. But we're constantly fighting against that like image of perfection, right? But
absolutely, yeah, no. And I can only imagine like people are like, I want to do this, and you're like, whoa, you're not just to do that. That can cause an infection.
Right.
But we have this option, so this is why I'm glad you're here and talking with us today, so we can spread this information,
absolutely.
Right? And then why should people come to your I guess facility or business, or why should they come to you to get tattoos? I wanna hear your answer for this.
Sure. I really feel like that's what sets me apart is how I make my clients feel. I consider myself a pretty like empathetic person. I try to pick up on their energy and their, I try to read the room, right? So if my client comes to me and they need some quiet time, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to chat your ear off, or if they want to talk, great, we'll chit chat. So I really try to read my clients as far as like, where they're at, and just pick up on that and try to give them the best experience that they want. And I always try to think of it from my perspective because I'm a really detail-oriented person. So I'm like, okay, if I was the client, what would I want, right? And I like to be in the know. So I like when people walk through what they're going to do, what to expect. And I think it just makes the whole process go smoother. So I really, tell my clients, love you, mom and dad, no.
Quick shout out. She just wanted to do that just to talk about her parents, y'all.
Exactly. Love them. But no, for my client, I tell them exactly like, okay, this is what we're going to start with. I'm going to take some photos. After the photos, step 1, 2, 3, so that they know, because you're literally trusting your face. Most of the time I'm working on someone's face. Yeah. You're trusting your face to someone. And I don't take that lightly. Exactly. I really try to make them feel safe and comfortable because everyone comes in a little nervous, but I try to, if I do pick up on that, I give them reassurance and I don't rush them. I'm like, hey, I'm here to give you something that you're going to be happy with. So I do whatever I can to make the client happy, of course, but while still running, a professional business as well, because you can't necessarily, from the business aspect, you can't like let the client like take over, right?
Yeah,
you're still the professional. You're
the
still
expert.
the guidance, right? You're giving the guidance. So it's that fine balance of making them feel safe and part of the whole equation, but also being the guide or the leader for them, because at the end of the day, they're there to see you.
Exactly. So. Well said.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Another question that I had was about the process. Maybe somebody is out there who's listening and they're just like, you know what? She said something that maybe I would like to try, or I didn't know that, or I've been wanting to do this, but I'm scared. What is the process like healing it, taking care of it? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that we're doing, I'm really going to make sure that the client is happy with the plan. So I try to create a visual for brows, for example, or actually anything on the face, brows, eyeliner, or lips. We're going to take measurements. We're going to create a mock-up so that the client can actually see their own face with the outline or whatever the mock-up might look like. And I show them in the mirror. I have a conversation with them and say, do you feel comfortable with this? Do you want to change anything? Once we have that plan, then, like I was saying before, I start the step-by-step process of explaining what's going to happen. We do use numbing because everybody asks about pain level, right? Yeah. So even though this is the same concept as body tattooing, it is on the face. It's more of an aesthetic type environment. So we do want the client to be comfortable, because at the end of the day, that makes it way easier for both of us. Yep. If I'm causing more pain to someone, it's making me uncomfortable too. So I'd rather they be numb and comfortable. So that's a huge factor for sure for their comfort level. And then once everything is done, of course, show them in the mirror, like, ooh, ah, love it. That's always the the goal, right? And then after that, we talk about aftercare, because I always tell them it's 50% doing the actual art itself, but then the other 50% is creating the right environment for your skin to heal without infection, hopefully, and sorry, lost my train of
No,
thought.
you're good. You're good.
Then
I said you're God. I meant you're good. Jeez Louise, this podcast. It's spooky season, y'all. We're crazy.
Spooky. There we go. It's your horns.
Yes, exactly. You can't see, but I'm wearing a little double horn deal. But no, yeah. No, you're right. It's about the process. And what about upkeep? I know, like, you're supposed to wear sunscreen. I know, at least with the other ones, like, to fade, and you can always do retouches probably, too.
Yep, absolutely. That's a huge factor. So we all think of body tattoos as being, like, super permanent, right? They don't go anywhere. You could maybe touch them up, but maybe not necessarily. With cosmetic tattooing, the whole idea is for it to look natural, so we don't saturate it as heavily as a regular body tattoo. So that's where sometimes it's marketed as semi-permanent. I still tell my clients you want to think of it as a permanent tattoo, so don't feel like, oh, it's going to disappear in 2 years, because it probably won't. But to upkeep the color, you do want to get a touch up every like 1 to 3 years. I really take a very honest and transparent approach to that, because there's some artists out there that will say, oh, it's faded in 6 months. Okay, come back, let's do a touch up. But in my opinion, it's a balance, because we don't want to keep over tattooing the same spot over and over, because it's going to traumatize the skin. So I try to be, you know, very honest artist that has integrity, right? I don't want to just take your money. I want to do what's best for your skin. So if you come in and you're like, hey, I think I need a touch up, I'm gonna be like, no, girl, you got at least like 6 more months. So every 1 to 3 years for that touch up. And then that just maintains the natural looking color.
I love that. I love the integrity you have, because I feel like I'm like that too. I'm like, it's my work that's being done. Or if somebody asks me to do something, I'm going to make sure that it's done right, because it's on my end, and it just looks bad on me, or I know I'm going to fix it. But again, emphasis on your tattooing people's faces.
Exactly.
Like, no pressure, girl, but
exactly.
Like, exactly, right? Yeah. Another question that I have for you is, have I missed or not touched on anything that maybe you would like to take this opportunity to talk about or bring awareness to, or just say something about yourself or your business that I have not touched?
Yeah, I think something that popped up where I was like, oh, I should have included that when you were asking me what makes me different. The name of my company, Inner Beauty Inc. So I really try to make sure that even though it is a place of like quote unquote beauty, right? I never want anyone to walk in and feel like it's a stuck up atmosphere, or, oh, I'm not dressed up enough for this place. Or, you know, maybe you can or can't relate, but I feel like most of us have walked into a place and maybe just felt like, oh, this is a little too bougie for me, or I don't fit in here. And I never want that to be the case. So like I tell everyone, come as you are. Like the office space is nice, because of course I want it to be nice and comfortable and clean for everyone. But I never want it to be like a stuffy atmosphere. I want it to be more about your inner beauty coming through, no matter what that looks like. It could be even brows. There's people with brows that are super insecure because, you know, and it's just brows, you think, but still that inner piece, right? That's the part that I'm most happy to be able to help with. And of course, we're doing something on the exterior, but it is helping our interior too.
Inner beauty,
exactly.
That's a clever name. I love that.
Thanks, girl. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. How did you come up with that name?
I think, I was just trying to think of like, what does my business mean? What do I want that experience to be for my clients? And I thought that I'm like, I never want anyone to feel like just because we're doing something cosmetic that it's all about superficial vanity. It's about how you feel on the inside. So I'm like, inner beauty, boom, like let's do it. And then I do tattoos, so ink, there you go. So so Inner Beauty Ink with a K. I always have to say that, like it's not incorporated, ink with a K.
Yeah, no, I love it. All right, so my last question is going to be, do you have a quote, a saying, or a mantra that has touched you in any way, or that you've heard said or read in a book? And would you mind sharing that with our listeners?
Oh, I do, but I don't remember it off the top of my
That's
head.
Okay.
I might have to look it up, but it's something to do with basically like from the client business perspective. I wish I remembered it. It's going to drive me nuts now, but the end of the quote is, they'll never forget how you made them feel. Like, the first part of that quote is like, you know, they'll forget this, they'll forget that, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel. Yeah. So that's genuinely what I try to do with my clients. And then there was another one that actually is on, it was like, on this little vase or cup in the bathroom upstairs
Oh,
here.
okay.
But it was be fearless in the pursuit of whatever sets your soul on fire.
Yes, we do
I
have
love
that one up there. Aaliyah
Yes.
picks that one. She's our boss. Yeah.
Yes, I love that so much because it's so true. It's like, just go for it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to learn about you and
Absolutely.
tattoos and how powerful they can be and how the impact that they have on people.
For sure. And thank you so much for just having me here and for your time as well. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Anytime.